Hello, it's Diana Marchand from dianamarchand.com, and once again, the lighting is not going to be the greatest, but what I wanted to do is, because I'm making a soup, and I kind of wanted to show you how I make a soup kind of quick, fast. Now, I'm going to be doing pieces of it here because you don't want to stay for the whole thing. So what I decided to use in it was, I got some carrots, great farmer's market, a parsnip, some onion, I have more onion, I have some celery sticks, and I have, I think this is Savoy cabbage. I don't remember what the name is. I have some quinoa I'm going to put in it. I'm going to put in some black beans and some navy beans. That's going to be part of it too. And I think I'm going to flavor it. I know I'm going to flavor it with some bay leaves, some garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, Italian spice, maybe a bit of thyme. And then I have only half a bouillon cube left. These organic bouillon cubes. Sometimes I use more. I only have a half now, so I do have some organic powder stuff I can use. Or I may try to just flavor it with myself, like salt and pepper and all the other spices I have. So really, this is how easy it is. You do not have to overthink making soup. You don't even really need a recipe. You need a big pot, which is on the stove. Add some oil to it. I like grapeseed oil or sunflower oil. I cut up some garlic. I cut up some onion. Probably use a bit more than half an onion. Parsnips. But first of all, ginger, but I don't have any. So usually I do the garlic, the onions, and the ginger. I cut a whack up. Like it could be, you know, up to like almost a cup of onions or whatever. Depends on how many onions you like. These I have, like, you can see quite big cloves of garlic. One parsnip, that size. And I have, this is my celery sticks that I have, right? So, I don't know. It's like, it really doesn't matter, okay? So that's what I'm going to show you during this video. So I'm going to cut, start sauteing, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so I have the garlic, the onions in there. I used about 2 tablespoons of garlic, maybe close to a cup of onions, something like that. Depends on how much you like onions. And now I'm just doing up the celery. Now, how you cut it doesn't really matter. Like, it depends on if you like bigger pieces or smaller pieces in your soup. Some people like things really chunky. I don't know. This time I'm not making it too chunky. And I'll show you what I did. So I cut the celery sticks kind of, you know, sometimes in half, a little thicker. And then I bunch them together like this, and I just cut them like this. Keep your fingers in like a claw. And I just cut like this. And that cuts up very fast, right? Like, sometimes it's technique that gets the job done faster too. So see, that's all cut. Then I just have one piece left, and I just cut that. And I'll measure this for you guys. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, it depends on the size of your pot too, right? So okay, that's 1 cup. So we probably have about 1.5 cups of celery. I like lots of veggies in my soup too, like opposed to broth. Like, I probably have my soups thicker than most people do. So there is my celery. Celery and my parsnips going to go in at the same time. Now, parsnips have a bit of a different flavor, but they do make a good broth. It just depends. I tend to like them cut up small because I don't want a big piece of parsnip. And I'm not sure if we're going to use the whole parsnip or not. They do have a distinct flavor. I like them more to flavor soups than to actually have like a big chunk of parsnip and chew on it for myself. So I'm cutting them just a bit smaller. Right, I may not use the whole thing like I said. So really it's about, you know, zucchini works okay in soups too. It is a little mushy. I don't really like broccoli in soups unless I'm going to eat it right away. So when broccoli sits for a few days, it really gets kind of a pale color, and I'm not a fan of broccoli in my soups. That's why I tend to use the root vegetables. I could use some potatoes in here. I actually have some potatoes from the farmer's market that I could actually maybe cook up and throw in my soup another day. But right now I have, you know, could be half a cup of parsnips. There's that. And then, so I would put this in once this is sauteed for a bit. And then I'm going to put in my parsnips and celery. Now I'm going to cut up my carrots, and I'm going to put all the root vegetables in there with a bit of water, maybe a 1/4 cup or so, half a cup of water, and put the lid on. And then they're kind of sauteing. They're not in a whole bunch of water. They're not boiling to death. They're kind of sweating down. And then I start putting in my bay leaves, the rest of the water. What we're going to do and add in the cabbage in a bit. So get back to you. Hello, I'm back. And so I have done, I've added water, added 11 cups. So I was sauteing, first of all, the onions and the garlic, and then I added some celery and some parsnips and some carrots, added a bit of water to that, stirred it around, covered it, just a little bit of water, just so it kind of sautés, you know, just so it's not drying and sticking to the bottom of the pan, right? And so I'm doing that, did that, and then cooked that probably for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then I've added my 11 cups of water. Now we're adding some bay leaves, and they're all broken up, so I don't know, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to add. Don't just add just one though. I find I've never felt that I've added too many, so but there's a couple tiny ones in there, something like that. And then I'm going to add some of this bouillon cube. Now, I only have half left, but like I said, you could use a full bouillon cube. Make sure that the organic, you don't want, oh my God, watch when you buy bouillon cubes or any stock at all, usually has tons of preservatives in it. That's why I don't use a lot. And I buy the organic one. And then along with that, so now we're going to add the spices. Now, what you could start, this is a big pot of soup. So you could almost do a tablespoon of kind of, except for salt and pepper, but you may need that. But start, you can always do a tablespoon of garlic powder, tablespoon of onion powder, tablespoon of paprika, almost a tablespoon of Italian spice. You don't need to measure exactly. You are going to add less and then taste it. Do you need more? Do you need more flavor in it? Of course, salt and pepper always. But you can flavor it kind of with chili powder. You can, especially if you add tomatoes to this, it's great with chili powder and paprika, really good flavoring. So you may know better flavors. I just kind of stick to what I know, but always experiment. You got a lot of flavor in there already with the stock. So now you're just going to add some more. For a pot this size, you're probably safe with starting with the tablespoon. But if you're worried, start with half a tablespoon of each spice, then see how it goes from there. Hello, I'm back, and sorry for this color. It's because it's now dark and everything changes. So here you go. So now I put the lid on and let this boil. Like I added half a cup of quinoa to this. You can add more. If you don't want to add beans to it, I would add more quinoa, like maybe a full cup of dry quinoa or even a cup and a half of quinoa, and then your cabbage. Now I decided to add some beans. Now I added black beans to this and white beans, but I think that this particular soup would be much better with just white beans or pinto beans and white beans, not the black beans. But anyways, it's what I got. So I boiled this and I tested it, and the carrots are just tender, so that's a good time to add, like the beans don't need cooking. You can soak and do your own beans. I'm not sure if I'm gonna add all these beans because I'm also added quinoa, right? So I'm just going to start to add and see how thick it gets, right? I just mixed the black and white beans from the cans, poured them in here, rinsed them with water. That's why they're together. If you don't use all the beans, if you don't want to use all the beans in your soup, you can keep them like this. They're draining in the strainer. Put them in the fridge and add them to your salads. I love adding beans and stuff to my salads. Makes them a little heartier. So this is 3 cups of beans. Now what I did with the cabbage is I just cut off the end and I rinsed it in a colander. And now I'm just going to chop it up and add the cabbage into the soup. How much really doesn't matter. It's kind of up to you, right? Like this Savoy cabbage is kind of a stronger flavor. So I don't want to add too much, or otherwise it's going to make my soup maybe a little kind of bitter, I didn't know what it was going to taste like, so that's why I tasted it. And it's what they make kimchi with, which I love, and I have some in the fridge. So I'm just going to chop up my cabbage. Now, also, what I love to do with soup is before I eat the soup, or even before I cut up a whole bunch of kale or greens, chop them up, add it to my soup that's in my bowl, and I just let it wilt a bit, and that's what I have. So I always add fresh greens right before I eat my soup too. Now, you can add kale, especially dinosaur kale, to a soup and let it stay in there the whole time. But I like adding my greens first so that they don't cook out all the nutrients, right? Like right before I eat them. Now, the amount of cabbage you want to use is totally up to you. I don't know. I'm probably going to add about 3 cups, I would say. Don't always have the lid on. Sometimes I do, but of course, if you keep the lid off and it's boiling, you're going to lose a lot of the moisture, right? So it's going to soak down. Now, I also like cooking my soup at taking longer at a bit of a lower temperature, but today, because of you, I'm doing it quite fast, so it's at a higher temperature. But yeah, so it's however you kind of like it, experiment, but
Okay, I'm just showing you I'm on my camera. I'm on my phone, so it's not my computer, so it's going to look a bit different. There's my soup in the pot. And you kind of see how thick it is. And this will, of course, thicken as it sits.
Depends on how you like your soup. Taste it. I have been tasting it. And so far, the seasoning that I've added, that I gave you, is doing pretty good. Now, for sure, if you want more salt, if you want more pepper, if you want more paprika, if you want something else added into it, add it in. Learn to trust yourself. Learn to trust your taste buds. Learn to make things to your taste. That's so important. That way, you don't have to follow recipes all the time. That's what takes so much time. You see, you just get a whole bunch of vegetables together, chop, 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 put it in there. Usually, I always start by sauteing my garlic, ginger, and onions. Didn't have ginger today. First, with some oil in the bottom of the pan. Enough oil so it doesn't stick. You need a good amount of oil in that pan. Then, I add the celery, carrots, sometimes parsnips, whatever, with a bit of water. Saute that with the lid on then, so things start, or off. It doesn't really matter. You just don't want it to burn to the bottom of the pan, of course. So you want to make sure when you put the lid on, that it has a bit of moisture in there still, right? So it still cooks. And you keep that at like a medium or high. Then when you add all the water, then you want to bring it to a boil so you have it higher, right? And especially you want to like cook your carrots, parsnips. Then you add the quinoa because you want those to boil, whatever you're adding in there. Then once again, you can lower the temperature a bit. Once the carrots, the quinoa and that are kind of, a little tender, don't have it on continuously really high. You can lower the temperature a little bit. Keep the lid off. Take the lid off. Do like that. But note, if you have the lid off, it's going to evaporate. So you don't want to have the lid off the whole time. Have fun with your soup. Oh my God, use what's in your fridge. Add flavors. What do you like? Experiment. It's a learning process. All of my soups do not turn out perfect. Believe me, that is no. Sometimes they turn out, better than other times. That is just normal. I have a pad here. Sometimes I write it down what I'm doing. Then I know how to adjust it. That's my tips for you today on making a quick, fast, easy soup. Hope you enjoyed it. Join my Facebook community, Women Creating Healthy Lives with Passion and Purpose. See you there. Bye.